Well, hello, Kent Adams here. Hope you're having a good day. And I'm so pleased to have perhaps our next governor of the state of Washington. Right now, we have a governor of the state of confusion, but we're going to replace him come this fall. And the first step to do that is to elect somebody else to challenge him, because it probably will be Inslee who slides through on the primary. But we need a good, strong opponent, and I think we have him here today. Joshua Freed, how are you?
I am doing great, and it's so good to see you, Ken. I hope you're having a great day in Spokane.
We are. We're having a great day, and it's going to be a greater day come August 4th, or at least that
I,
night, right?
I agree. I'm looking
Are you
forward
ready
to it.
to celebrate?
My team is working hard, and we're
Yeah,
excited for August 4th. It's something we've been looking forward to a long period of time, and
right.
then looking to November 3rd after that. We have a lot of work to do in Washington State, but this is the unique opportunity that we've been waiting for 35 years.
Yes. Tell me about, first of all, we'll get into why you're running, but tell me about your background. Who are you, and what have you done?
Sure. Well, I'm married, been married for 23 years to my wonderful wife,
You're
Lindy.
not
We
even
met at
that old.
46.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we met in college at Seattle Pacific University, got married a year after, and now we have five amazing kids: 21-year-old son, 19-year-old daughter, 16-year-old daughter, and twin boys, Simon and Levi, that are 14. That have been running my own real estate investment company, doing land development and home building for 15 years. Also served on Bothell City Council for 12 years and was mayor during a period of time of revitalization. And so that was extremely exciting. And then we're really dedicated to service. We're serving here at home as well as overseas in the Philippines for 21 years, as well as in Kenya, building health centers and drilling wells for the Maasai tribe there.
Yeah. What drives you to be an entrepreneur and to be a philanthropist and involved in, when I say the community, obviously more than just your local community, the world? What drives you to do that?
I've always been taught by my parents that we're called to love our neighbors. Some people look at other folks as not as equal to them, or if they're in a difficult situation, maybe in homelessness or addiction, they'll look
Right.
down and say, well, you just made your own decision and your plight is your plight. For me, my parents taught me, no, we're supposed to reach down, help somebody in a time of need. It's like the Good Samaritan. We're called to love one another. And so that's a big motivator for me. God has put me in a position in business that's moving forward. It's been growing for the last 15 years. And with that, we use the resources to go build homes. We built 150 homes in the Philippines in response to an earthquake there.
Wow.
We've been involved in certainly service, as I said, in Kenya and different places around the world. Really, my mom's a nurse, so we would drive on family trips down to Oregon coast and go to Coos Bay. And it would take us a long time because if there was an accident, my mom would want to pull off. She's a nurse. It would take hours to get to where we wanted to go. We just kind of expected it. And then my dad, he was involved with the United States Agency for International Development. So we lived in both Egypt for 4 years as a child, as well as Pakistan. And so, like in Pakistan, he set up refugee camps, 1.5 million refugees that would come from Afghanistan into Pakistan. He was involved
Wow.
in feeding programs in Africa. So Denny Freed set the standard. And
So
that's what I've been taught.
it's in your DNA then.
It is literally in the DNA.
Yeah,
And so
that's
now we're feeling called to serve the state of Washington. We see a lot of myriads of the failure of our current governor and people suffering around the state. And so we now feel called that this is the time that we need to serve the citizens of Washington state.
yeah. What personally calls you to do this? Because this is going to take you away from your business. It's going to take you away from your family and some of the things that you treasure. But what makes you want to serve the citizens of Washington State?
Well, for me, it's personally my faith. I'm a Protestant, I'm a Christian, and my faith teaches me that God made us equally. And when we're seeing a brother or sister fall or in a difficult position, we don't just stand in judgment, but we reach down and help them during their time of need. So for me, the motivator is love your neighbor. And now is the time that we desperately need it. I've been involved in politics from one way or the other, and I visited downtown Seattle just 2 weeks ago go down there a lot just to serve on the streets. But we served 150 people in Pioneer Square, and I met 6 to 8 people first time at homelessness. So these are folks that just had a job prior to this COVID crisis, and due to Jay Inslee's overreaction and unconstitutional and unscientific directives, he's put people into homelessness. I truly believe that Jay Inslee is killing Washington. It's not COVID. It's his directives against individuals and against small business in Washington.
Well, we've had two viruses that are crystal clear to me. One is COVID-19. I think some of the initial things that he suggested and so forth, that was going to be a 2 or 3 week incubation time, probably made some sense, but now we're talking about 2, 3, or 4 months. Okay, and so that's the first virus. The second virus, our station primarily serves small business in the community. That's our heart and soul, okay? I can't tell you how many small businesses I've seen go out of business, and some have confidentially told me, if we can't really open in the next week, the next 10 days, my business, probably my family, will be in bankruptcy because of the loans we've personally taken and those kinds of things. And that's a terrible virus, not to mention suicides are up, depression is up, mental illness is up. That's maybe a third disease to this. And we're only dealing with the first one, which in Spokane, I think we reached 40 deaths today or something from 39. And most or a good number of those were older men and women in our veterans' homes that were so vulnerable to start with, okay, and so forth, and things didn't happen maybe as fast as they should. Hindsight is always 20/20, but that second virus of businesses is so important. Are you seeing that with the people you talk to?
Oh, absolutely. I've been to all 39 counties in our state over 14 days last month. And obviously, I continued to go to each county in the state. But the message was consistent and clear that people are ready to reopen Washington because so many businesses, as you say, I've talked to the business owners directly, and they will never open up again. Just even yesterday, I met with a family that said that their business, their livelihood that they've depended on is finished. And actually, it was a husband and wife team in their business.
Yeah.
So it's not just one of the breadwinners, it's both. And so when Jay Inslee is making these dividing proclamations of essential versus non-essential, winner versus loser, and he's declaring that if you're a big box store, you are an essential resource to us in our communities, but if you sell t-shirts and shorts just the same as the Walmart store, you're considered non-essential. And he's really taking away our constitutional rights. You know, the Constitution does protect those rights, yet he's making these directives and at the same time threatening people, saying, if you're on your way to your essential job, you're literally killing your grandparent. Yeah. Or if your kid's on the front porch or on the front sidewalk, tell them you're going to write them out of the will. And if they don't listen to you, tell them the governor's going to call. He has divided us during this period of time and separated. I mean, think about the division that we have in Washington State today. He is incapable of pulling us together as he's encouraging neighbors literally to call upon the government on their neighbor if they're on their way to their non-essential job. They're going to take away their business license, they're going to fine them, and even threats of putting them in prison. That's not leadership. That's not what we need. That's truly not, we're in it all together if you're saying call government.
And if you're vulnerable and old, then you need to take extra precautions and maybe not go out to the store as often, or go in the morning where a lot of our local markets have opened up from 7 to 9 for elderly people and so forth. And I just think that, you can control that. But there are people anxious to go back to work. I think also we've reached a point of maybe the, what do you call it, when people don't work, unemployment, which I understand may be bankrupt in the state of Washington thanks to the poor oversight of our governor and staff there, sending millions overseas. I mean, come on. Shouldn't you be expecting that?
$1 billion from our ESD, the Employee Security Department. While people are waiting for 6 to 8 weeks to get their unemployment check, we have a gaping hole. Yeah. And what is, it's very disconcerting to say at the very least, but then Jay Inslee still has not let go the leader of ESD, She is a Democrat fundraiser, and so Jay Inslee, even though $1 billion of our money went out of the state to a Nigerian fraud ring, he's still not let her go. What about some responsibility there? What about letting the citizens of Washington know that you're willing to make difficult decisions? That one's not even a difficult decision. If you can't make one that is so clear to the rest of us, what's happening otherwise? I mean,
Yeah.
this is the same guy who said he was unaware of what's happening on Capitol Hill in downtown Seattle, where we saw the autonomous zone established because on day one of that riot, they gave him an inch and they literally took 6 blocks. When you live in eastern Washington, you know, I know, as I've traveled around central and eastern Washington, northwest Washington, people are feeling that they are underrepresented, that their own government doesn't understand truly their
Yeah.
needs, but rather they're getting dictates from Olympia and from a governor who spends more time flying to Iowa than he does spending time in Yakima.
Yeah.
We have a serious concern here in Washington state, and we desperately need new representation. The guy doesn't even have awareness of what's happening in one of the 3 counties he represents, then he's truly unaware what's happening in Ponderay or Asotin County.
Okay, so let's talk about positive things here. What will you
Sure.
do for all of us as voters and as residents and families, not only here in Spokane and Eastern Washington, but for our whole state? What can you do?
Well, we need to get the economy moving again, that's for sure.
Yes.
And when I was mayor of the city of Bothell, I oversaw the largest revitalization of a downtown in Washington state. We created a vision for the city of Bothell, and then we brought in $450 million worth of private investment. We opened Bothell for business. Ultimately, we called a campaign saying, Buy Bothell. That's the same thing that we need in Washington state.
Yeah.
We have become a very unfriendly business state here, where
Yes.
during this COVID crisis, not one government job was lost. They actually added 1,500 to track and trace each one of us. We need to see state government cut right now because we're ultimately working to support government rather than government be there to exist to serve we the people. So I want to turn that upside down. I want to
Good.
remove the 57,000 pages of regulations that are antiquated. I want to make sure that we are reducing like the B&O tax, which is the business and occupation tax, so we can see small businesses thrive in Washington state. Government doesn't create jobs unless, of course, they're appointing positions to track and trace each one of us. But truly, enterprises, small businesses are creating 80% of the jobs in Washington state. We need to clear the path forward for them, not do what Shauna Sawana and Jenny Durkin want to do in Seattle by adding a head tax.
Yeah.
The second big thing I want to focus on is the rise of crime under Jay Inslee. When under Jay Inslee, we've seen homelessness exponentially increase. And I have to say, homelessness, the reason for it is unique as each one of us in a state. Sometimes it's an economic situation
Right.
that you find you're homeless on the street. But really, the two biggest contributing factors, number one is mental health issues. We see 30% of the mentally ill, or 30% of the homeless struggling from mental illness. Western State Hospital was decertified in July 2018, so now 2 years later, we've lost over $100 million after a 70-page report was written and certification removed. So now the most vulnerable among us are left to wander the streets across our state. But the biggest contributing factor is drug and alcohol addiction.
Yeah.
And we're seeing people get addicted to heroin, which costs $35,000 a year. So these people are camping underneath freeways or in parks, and they're breaking into people's homes, they're breaking into people's cars, they're assaulting people on the street, which is why crime is increased. Assaults on individuals is up by 20%.
Well, they
Assaults
have
of
a
first
lousy
responders up by
life
40%.
themselves. Let's think about them too, right?
Right. Well,
You know?
yeah, if we want true compassion, we're going to enforce the laws in Washington state. So under a Freed administration, if you're using heroin on the streets of our state, as I've seen far too many times, you're going to go to jail. Or we're going to give you the option to go to what I call pathways to recovery.
Right.
It's a new public-private partnership I want to set up. We, the government, would provide underutilized government facilities like McNeil Island or Evergreen State College, and we would bring in nonprofits that actually have success of giving people on people treatment to get people through detox, through recovery, through job training and apprenticeship programs. That's turning this upside down, turning it around and
Yes.
helping people get on a pathway to success. That's loving your neighbor. That's true compassion. Not what the current majority is doing. Just say, hey, do whatever you want. Live under a tarp surrounded by garbage and needles. That's what has to change in Washington state. I look forward to leading the charge on that next year.
Yeah. All right. So are you ready for this?
Absolutely. We're all in.
Yeah. How does it look?
It looks very good. You know, when I become governor of the state of Washington, I want to show the citizens of Washington that I'm there to serve. We need a true public servant in Olympia, which is why I'm not going to take my salary. I'm going to donate that to a non-profit homeless shelter or drug rehab facility to make sure that we are giving the clear message that it's time for a servant leader, not somebody that wants to go enrich themselves off their connections to special interest or enrich themselves off of running initiatives, but truly to be there to serve. And so I look forward to the opportunity, and I think this is the time we've been waiting for 35 years. Politics
I
is
agree.
cyclical, just like the economy, right?
Yep.
I recently met with the Republican Governors Association who said, Josh, we like your background, your platform, and think you're the best to go up against Jay Inslee in November. And he is vulnerable now running for his third term.
Yes, yes. I years ago, this is probably 20 years ago, was in a meeting at the airport in Seattle because they were accommodating a couple of us that from Spokane that came over, and everybody met there. And they kept talking about the east side. And I brought up the question, okay, the east side, that's like Bellevue? And they all said yes. And I turned to the gal that was with me from Spokane, and I said, well, I guess we're out of the state completely. We can leave now. And they realized the mistake they've made. What will you do
Yep.
to include central and eastern Washington as an important part of Washington?
Absolutely. So I will establish what's called regional offices of the governor. So
Okay.
I've heard this message multiple times as I've been traveling to central and eastern Washington,
I'll bet.
hearing how people are concerned about the $750,000 that Jay Inslee allocated to remove the Snake River dams to study that program.
Yeah.
And yet those dams provide 800,000 homes clean energy. So what I want to do is these regional offices of the governor, I'm going to take 5 existing employees. So I'm not growing government. I'm going to put them in existing government facilities in Ellensburg, Spokane, Northwest Washington, and Southwest Washington. And these regional offices will actually hold offices so I can meet my constituents right there in those regions. At the same time, allow for remote testimony, because we all heard about comprehensive sex ed that was passed at 2 in the morning. The one opportunity that the legislature gave for the public to come was at 8 in the morning. Well, try driving from Spokane to Olympia by 8 in the morning. We're talking about leaving at 1 a.m. So clearly, you get a disproportionate perspective from folks from King, Pierce, and Snohomish County, and Asotin, Pend Oreille, Spokane. They're all left without that voice. So the regional office will allow people to come, sit in front of a camera that's already set up, and be able to speak directly down to the legislature as they're in session or in committee hearings.
Good.
I look forward to it. I think we'll finally get fair, more even representation in the state.
Good. I think that's a great idea. Well, Josh, you said I could call you Josh, that you wouldn't get mad
Yes,
at
sir.
me, Joshua. But I just want to, once in a while we have to stand up as individuals for what's right. And I just want to say on this program that I'm going to vote for you and I endorse you. Okay? So good to have you. We need you in Olympia for so many reasons. And I wish you the best. And thank you for being on the program. Any last words?
Well, I just have to say, Ken, what a surprise. That I sincerely appreciate your endorsement and certainly honored by it. To have a man of your caliber and reach in the Spokane Valley and beyond, I sincerely appreciate your support. But yeah, if listeners want to go help jump on board with the campaign and give your endorsement also, freedforgovernor.com. That's FREED for governor.com. And we're looking for all the support we can get. This is the year of which we can win and take back Washington.
It is the year, and let's do it, okay? We'll all vote together, all right? Thank you. You have a good day. I know you have other things to go on to today, and we look forward to seeing you back in Spokane in a couple weeks.
Sounds good. God bless.
Thanks. Thanks for watching this special edition. Have a good day, everybody.